Hello everybody, welcome back. Haley Gibson here. Today I want to talk to you about herbs and supplements that we use to improve adrenal fatigue. Adrenal fatigue is a super hot topic lately. A lot of people are struggling with this issue. We are discovering that we are all exhausted and our adrenal glands are not able to keep up with the extra toxin exposure, the processed foods, the increase in chemicals we have in the world around us, and the highly demanding lives that we live. All of this is extremely stressful on our bodies. So a huge part of adapting to the stress requires nutrients. So this keeps our hypothalamus and our pituitary communicating with our adrenal glands. So we really need particular nutrients to keep that communication going and to keep our bodies performing optimally. So toxic foods, pesticides, herbicides, chemicals, all these things lead to liver overload. And when our liver is overloaded, our adrenal glands elicit a stress response to all of these things. So our goal is to minimize our stress response. It is the same, our stress response is the same whether we are running from a bear or dealing with an infection. So for instance, if your body thinks it's running from a bear, you're not going to be moving your reserves towards good digestive function or good sex hormone production. So this can really take away from our ability to function properly. We really need to have a time for rest and digest. We cannot be on the go all of the time. We have to slow down. So when our cortisol rises up, like I said, we take away from our body's resources. Stress actually further depletes our vitamins that we need to help produce our adrenal hormones as well as our sex hormones. So that just exacerbates the problem. So thankfully, we have nutrients in concentrated forms. We also have healthy foods, but we also have supplements that can help us keep up with today's demands and help us keep our energy up without overstimulating our system or causing negative side effects. You have to be careful with the types of supplements you use because some of them are actually just stimulating and can be harmful to the body. So we want to be picky about the supplements that we use. So before we go into talking about these supplements, I want to tell you a little bit about myself, just short and sweet. So on the left-hand side, you can see pictures of myself with family. This was our holidays. Super great time. I always love seeing my family. If you look over to the right, you can see a picture of me, and down below that, you can see a picture of myself at the mountain challenge. Said this before, this is what I consider to be my social outing. I've made a lot of good friends through this. Basically, we run up the side of a mountain and work out really hard together, and it's a group of about 150 people now. It has grown like crazy. And then down below that is our sweet puppy, Rebel. And he's got his little hoodie on. So let's dive into the topic. So this is a great slide that shows us the most important herbs and nutrients necessary to help us conquer adrenal fatigue. What I'm going to do is discuss each in a little bit more detail, but I thought this was a great slide to put it all in one place for you. That would be great to take a little snapshot of. So symptoms of adrenal fatigue. We can see things such as low energy, anxiety or irritability. So when we have adrenal fatigue, we steal from our body's ability to make neurotransmitters appropriately as well. Under inflammation, we can lose the ability to make serotonin and dopamine correctly. So this can result in anxiety or irritability. Also, when we have excess amounts of cortisol, I'm sure you're familiar, but we get that little belly bloat, that excess weight around the midsection. This is typically related to cortisol. So an inability to lose weight, that's a major symptom. Sexual dysfunction is another. This is related to sex hormone production. So when we have excess cortisol floating around and we don't take time to rest and digest and we don't give our body what it needs to get out of a chronic stress state, our body will begin to pull resources from something called pregnenolone. Pregnenolone is our sex hormone precursor, but it will pull that into making more cortisol. So what happens is we have this pregnenolone going into making cortisol and we don't have our resources to make sex hormones anymore. So we're going to see a lot of hormonal imbalances start to come out. We can see digestive problems, chronic inflammation, feeling overwhelmed, bone loss, insomnia. If you have cortisol pumping out all night, you're not going to sleep very well when your mind's racing, you can't quit thinking, you're wired and tired. Depression, this can be related to neurotransmitters. Inability to gain weight is actually a sign of adrenal fatigue for a select few. Let's see, you can read the rest of those there, but lowered immunity, stress takes away from our ability to fight off pathogens. Chronic pain is very common. So as you can see, it's a whole host of things. The body works very intricately together, and every organ system affects the other. So a lot of times we'll see common symptoms with different dysfunction. So it's really important to dive in and see what exactly is causing it and how to readdress it. So these are just 2 supplements. I'm not going to just talk about supplements that we offer, but I did want to touch on these because they are really great. So Adapt Strong has vitamin B5, B6, and a few other herbs with it. So B5, I want to talk about that. B5 is important for coenzyme A production, which is a huge part of energy production for utilizing fats, proteins, and carbs. It also aids in sex hormone production, and it aids in serotonin production as well. So we really need B5 for healthy skin, reducing aging, and helping our adrenal glands produce more cortisol. So B5, very important nutrient to have. It also contains B6, still talking about Adapt Strong here. So B6, super important ingredient. We actually cannot produce dopamine, serotonin, or GABA without adequate amounts of B6. So very important. It aids in the balancing of sodium and potassium as well, which is really big for fluid regulation. It promotes red blood cell production. We want healthy red blood cells so we can deliver oxygen and nutrients and get rid of our waste product. It also decreases homocysteine formation. So if you listened last week, and I'll make a more in-depth presentation next week on homocysteine, but homocysteine is actually one of the biggest indicators that we have for heart disease. Homocysteine is the molecule that can rip into our vessels and cause the beginning of plaque formation. So we really want to decrease the amounts of homocysteine. So B6 is great for this. A lack of B6 can cause anemia, nerve damage, seizures, skin problems, and even sores in the mouth. It can also be used for the treatment of anxiety and depression. There have been cases where someone has been really panicky and just a lot of anxiety, and they were given large doses of B6 because that is what their doctor discovered they were deficient in. And after they got these high doses of B6, their anxiety actually went away. So very powerful nutrient. So Adapt Strong also contains herbs with adaptogenic qualities that can help with hypo and hyperadrenal function because it is not stimulatory. So it actually helps the body improve energy utilization and helps stabilize blood sugar, which is key for adrenal function. So it has Panax ginseng for stabilizing blood sugar, has rhodiola, which is a powerful antioxidant and flavonoid. It also has cordyceps, which helps produce and balance cortisol and stress hormones. And then para-aminobenzoic acid. So this aids in the utilization of amino acids. So really great for someone who is under a lot of stress, trying to conquer a lot during the day, which, as far as I know, is the majority of Americans now. So that's a great supplement to use. Vitamin C, extremely important for adrenal function. It helps produce cortisol. So without vitamin C, we're really going to struggle to produce adequate amounts of cortisol to meet the stress demands of our day. It also helps reduce free radicals. Vitamin C is huge for immune function as well. Most of us are familiar with that, but we like to start with 500 to 1,000 milligrams twice daily. All right, so magnesium is a huge common deficiency in today's world. So we actually need 1,000 milligrams daily and even up to 2,000 milligrams a day for a more stressed individual. So typically it's hard to get enough from food, especially with our soil depleted foods that we have now. or nutrient depleted soil that lead to nutrient depleted food. Sorry, I said that wrong. But it's just hard to get enough magnesium. So sometimes we need to supplement with magnesium. And we found that supplementing with magnesium really helps people with brain function. It helps them focus better. It has helped people sleep better. And it's also helped with muscle cramps. So it's also really important for methylation, which is a topic for another day, cortisol production, and amino acid utilization as well. We use something called brain calm magnesium. We usually start with 200 milligrams, and that can even go up to 400 milligrams twice a day. But I do recommend talking with a healthcare provider before starting that. It can also help relieve constipation to add magnesium into the diet or take it in supplement form. All right, so trace minerals are also really important. So when we're in a state of adrenal fatigue, our physiological processes are moving fast and using up raw materials. So this depletes key electrolytes and other minerals. You can certainly supplement with trace minerals, but I recommend consuming sea vegetables such as dulse, kelp, things like that. So additionally, consuming bone broth in soups and stews with bone broth is a really great idea. Some vegetables have a high amount of trace minerals, such as celery and cucumbers, so these are really awesome to add to the diet. I also recommend using pink Himalayan sea salt. So we've been told that salt is bad for us, but really it comes down to the type of salt that we're using and what our sources are. So when we're eating a highly processed diet, we're getting way too much common table salt, way too much sodium, and we don't need to add salt to anything. However, this form of table salt is not very beneficial to the body at all. So if you look here at this slide, you can see the different forms of salt underneath a microscope. And you can see that the common table salt, it has a square shape, a very unnatural look to it. The sea salt's a little better, but the pink Himalayan sea salt, this has the most natural form to it, and it's the least processed. So it actually offers 84 minerals and can help us overcome adrenal fatigue and also help sustain energy throughout the day. Salt is very important for body function. We actually use sodium in every reaction in our body. It causes action potentials to happen, which cause other things to happen. So we do need sodium, very crucial. But we don't want to add it unless we're taking out all the processed foods in our diet. All right. So probiotics are also really important for adrenal fatigue. If we have some kind of gut flora imbalance, we're most likely producing toxins that are really toxic for our brain. So this is going to really impede our stress response as well. Our adrenal glands are going to be overwhelmed because it's responding to pathogens and toxins and bacterial overgrowth, which overwhelms the liver, and on it goes. So as you can see, this whole process is very intricately connected. We really need to focus and treat the body as a whole. This also boils down to our environment. So I like to start my clients with the most powerful, the research validated strains, such as Lactobacillus acidophilus and Bifidobacterium longum and lactis, as well as a few others. I will have clients take about 30 to 100 billion CFUs daily away from meals, and this will help give the good bacteria. Now, we do like to test for bacterial overgrowth and make sure that we balance it, because just because we're adding the good guys doesn't mean that we're taking away the bad guys. It helps, but we really need to look into what bacteria we have, what kind of ratio we have going on. So this slide shows us how herbal adaptogens can help us adapt to stress and respond better. There are a specific group of plants with unique characteristics that are called adaptogenic herbs, some of which we've talked about, but we're about to talk about several more. So these herbs help coordinate how our body adapts to stress by modulating the utilization of our stress hormones. So the herbs I mentioned that are in AdaptStrong are part of this group, and I'm going to mention a few more. But you can see what happens as our body gets overwhelmed. So these adaptogenic herbs just help aid our body in its response. It helps us adapt to stress better, short and simple. So Other adaptogenic herbs include ashwagandha, really great to take at night before bed. Everyone responds to it differently, but I've heard that people typically sleep better if they take this at night. Astragalus, holy basil, is really great for cortisol production. Should take it earlier in the day. Maca and Siberian ginseng. Using magnesium sprays or lotions or doing Epsom salt baths before bed is also really great for helping you go to sleep. Licorice root is something that is used to increase cortisol production, and it's great if you have hypoadrenal function, but we need to be careful. Don't stay on it too long and monitor your blood pressure. Tend to use licorice root just because it can raise your blood pressure. Typically, if this is adrenal related, that's fine because people with hypofunction can actually have orthostatic hypotension or low blood pressure where they get dizzy. So that can be a good effect of licorice root. But if we're already struggling with a high blood pressure, we really don't need to be using licorice root. We need to monitor that blood pressure daily. And I wouldn't recommend taking licorice root over 30 days. Let's see. Next slide. So amino acids, these are very critical for adrenal function. These are the precursors for protein as well as our neurotransmitters. So L-tyrosine is a precursor for cortisol, dopamine, and the catecholamines. We do not use in high cortisol, it can actually produce more. So L-taurine is a precursor to GABA, leads to better sleep, calmness, relaxation. A GABA deficiency can be showing up as anxiety as well. 5-HTP is a precursor for serotonin. So when we see someone struggling with their mood, they're really moody, they're depressed, they're not sleeping well, and their appetite is all over the place, this can be related to serotonin deficiency. So they like to boost up 5-HTP, help them develop serotonin better. L-theanine, this amino acid helps the HPA axis, which is the communication between the brain and the adrenal glands. It helps it dampen excitatory neurotransmitter and alpha brainwave activity. So this results in relaxation support and improved sleep quality. GABA is another one. Research suggests that GABA supplementation or optimal GABA function in the brain positively affects neurological health, the body's response to stress, mood, alpha and beta brainwaves, and sleep. So the Mood Protect, this is something that contains several of these amino acids that I had just mentioned. So we use Mood Protect when we find that somebody is really struggling with anxiety or depression, or they're having trouble sleeping. This is usually a go-to because it will help boost serotonin as well as GABA. It just helps really balance those neurotransmitters back out. It gives them the tools that they need. And 5-HTP is in a form where elevated cortisol will not mess with the conversion of 5-HTP to serotonin. So this is really great to add in. Brain Supercharge actually helps with mitochondrial support, which is the powerhouse of the cell. This is how we utilize energy. So Brain Supercharge has CoQ10, alpha-lipoic acid, carnitine, and N-acetylcysteine, all very important for reducing free radicals and utilizing the energy that we put into our bodies effectively. So I mentioned earlier pregnenolone. This is the sex hormone precursor that I spoke about, that whenever cortisol is really high, we're under a lot of chronic amounts of stress, we actually steal from pregnenolone, which is our sex hormone precursor, to make estrogen, testosterone, and progesterone. Pregnenolone will actually be used to make more cortisol. So that's what this slide here is depicting. Hormone replacement is used for adrenal fatigue. I absolutely think this should be a last resort. There's definitely benefits to it, and I've definitely seen people improve with it, but I would recommend actually consulting with a healthcare provider before using. Yeah. That's all I'm going to say. I think that's about it. So This is a picture of myself and Dr. David Jockers. We do work locally and long distance. We do consultations with people. We do advanced supplementation coaching, as well as tweak your diet and help you get to the root cause of your problem. We'll look over lab testing and help you discover what it is that's holding you back from being your healthiest. So if you would like to reach out to us, ask a question, or even set up a consult, you can reach me at nutrition@drjockers.com. I will be so happy to talk with you. Have a great day.